Hi everyone, welcome to channel Qtomation. Today we will see about locators in Playwright. So whenever we are using test automation, we have to use locators. A locator is used to identify web elements on a web page. Then action can be performed. So whenever we write automation script, we have to always identify the element first and then we can perform appropriate action on that element. For example, if you want to enter email field, so let's say on your web page there is a email field and password field. So before entering the email ID, we have to first identify the locator of that email ID input field. Then only we can put the actual value inside that email field. So that's why locator concept helps in locating and interacting with the web elements like buttons, text fields, drop downs, etc. So whatever script we are writing, depending on the action, we have to locate the elements. And to locate the elements, we use locators. So it can be input field, it can be a link on your web page, it can be a button which can be clicked, etc. There are multiple ways to locate element. So once you locate the element, to locate those element, we can have a different type of ways in Playwright. So Playwright supports CSS selectors. We can also use XPath as well. We can also use unique property of elements. Property means attribute of elements. We can also use text. We can also use Playwright's built-in locators as well. So using Playwright built-in locator that we will see in coming session. In today's session we will focus on CSS selector and how to use a text to identify the web element. So for that I will show you one practical example. So let's see practically one by one how we can use CSS selector and what is the syntax of locating elements in Playwright. So what I will do, I will just go to Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, I am inside my project. We have to use one website. So what I will do, so this is one website, that is saucedemo.com. This website contains username field, password field and one login button. There is a accepted username also giving, it has given. So we can use this username, we can use this password and then we can click on login. Let me just show you. So if I use this username, we can also use this password, we can put that in password field. This is same we are going to automate. So basically we will open this website, we will identify this username field, we will identify this password field, we will fill these values and then we will click on login button. And after login button, we have to verify something. To make sure that our result is passed, we have to make sure that we are identifying some element on this login page. So I will just capture this text, that is Sauce Labs backpack. If I capture this page and if I find this text on this page, that means my test case is passed. So that's the simple test case which we are going to automate now. And we will see the concept of locators as well. So first we are going to focus on CSS selector. So what I will do, I am just copying this website. Now I am going to Visual Studio Code. Inside this, let's create a new test file. I am naming it as locator css underscore demo dot spec.js. That is the file extension which we have to provide to our test file. So we have created our spec file. What is the first step? We have to import test and expect module from Playwright. So I'm just writing this test comma expect, and we can define them as constant. And we are importing them from Playwright-test module. So from this we are importing test and expect. So expect is used for assertions, whereas test is required to create a test case. So this is our first step. We can import the test and expect from Playwright-test module. Now after importing this, what is the next step? We have to use test block. So that is the syntax. We have already seen this basic syntax in our previous session. So I am just explaining one more time. So we have to use test block. Inside this test block, we have to first provide title of our test case. So I am just giving the title as, let's say, Locator demo CSS selector. So I am just giving the title of our test case. Then we have to provide comma, and then we have to add one anonymous function. So this is the syntax for anonymous function. Inside this is anonymous function block, and inside this function we have to provide page. So page is the object which we have to use, by which we can access different methods of Playwright to perform different actions. For example, going to a web page, navigating to a web page, identifying the elements, etc. So after this, we have to also use async and await. So before this function, we have to provide keyword of async. And then whenever we are using page, we have to use await as well. So these steps are basically part of our syntax to make the script wait for previous step to be completed. That is the syntax. So now first step is we have to navigate to website. So we have to just use await page dot go to. This command is basically for navigating to our website. So first step is we have to navigate to, let's say, https www.sourcedemo.com. So this is website which we are using. So I'm just copying this and let's paste it here. This is the same website which we are using. Okay, so this is the website we have provided. So this command will navigate to, it will launch the browser and it will navigate to this website. After coming to this page, now we are going to use Locator. So first step is we have opened this page. We have to identify this username field. We have to identify this password field. Then we have to enter the username, password and click on login button. So 3 locators we have to use. So I will just use first by using CSS selector. So we will use CSS selector. I am just opening inspect element. CSS selector we can create by using different combinations. So what is the syntax of CSS selector? So we can create a CSS selector by using tag and ID. We can also create CSS selector by using tag and class. We can create CSS selector by using tag and attribute. We can also create a CSS selector by tag, class and attribute. So whatever values which are available for that element, we can use accordingly. So first field is username field. So I want username field. So I will just inspect that element. If you see, for this element, what is the tag name? Input is a tag name, and there are multiple attributes for this tag. For example, class is there, placeholder is there, type is there, data-test. So all these are properties and these are values associated with those properties. So first we will create CSS selector by using tag and ID. So if you want to create a CSS selector by using tag and ID, what is the syntax for that? Tag name hash value of that specific ID. So in this case, what is the tag name? Input is a tag name. And is there ID present? If you see, ID is there. So if you see, ID is user hyphen name. So I will just maximize a bit. If you see, ID equals to user hyphen name. So what is the CSS selector we can use here? So as per syntax, we will simply use await. So just pay attention now. So await page dot. This is the syntax. So if you want to locate the element, there are two ways mainly. I will show you the first way. Await page dot locator, and in this locator we have to pass that specific locator. So I am just using CSS selector now. So input is a tag name. What is the tag name? Input is a tag name. I am just referring to here. So if I place Control F, input is our tag name, and we have to use hash. And what is ID value? So for this field username, what is the tag name? Is input hash and value of ID. So value of ID is user hyphen name. So I'm just copying it. So input hash username is identifying this element. If you see, it is highlighting our username field. That means we can use this CSS selector. It is identifying a single element. So input hash user hyphen name. So let's copy this value. I'm just copying this value, and let's use that value here. So this is the locator value. So await page dot locator. We have located that element, and then what action we have to do? After identifying that element, we have to fill that value. So we have to use dot fill method. Dot fill method, and in this we can pass the value which we want to enter as username. So our value is standard underscore user. So that's the value of username will be passed to this username field. This is the value standard underscore user will be passed to username field. Then we will identify the password field as well. So let's identify password field as well. So I will just highlight this. If you see, again, this time tag name is input, and we can use some attribute values as well. So along with this tag name, I can create a CSS selector like this as well. So let's say input, then I can use any attribute of that field. So let's say password field is having different attributes like placeholder, data hyphen test, ID. We have already used ID for username. So I'm just showing you another example. So let's say let's use name attribute. Name equals to password. So what I will do? Input, what is the syntax? Tag name, square brackets. After that we have to use attribute name. Let's say name equals to, what is the name equals to? Password. So it is identifying that specific password field. So I am just copying this value. This is the locator for password field by using CSS selector. So again we will use the same command, await page dot locator. In this we have to pass this locator value. Here we can use double quotes, and then again we have to fill that value. So fill, what value we want to pass? What is the password value we have to pass? Secret underscore sauce. So I'm just typing that value here, secret underscore sauce. So that value will be passed to password field. So we have passing input field of username. We are also passing password. Then what is the next step? We have to identify this login button, and we have to click on this login button. So for that, what is the syntax again? We have to first identify this login button. So let's inspect this login button. Now if you see, this is the tag name for this login button, that is input. And we can use any attribute. We can use name, we can use value, etc. So what I will do, I will just again Control F, input. Let's use some another value. For example, let's see, let's inspect this login button. So name is login hyphen button, or we can simply use value as well. So value equals to login. So this time I will use input value equals to login. So if you see, this is identifying our login button correctly. So it will locate the element and then we have to click on that element. So what is the syntax for that? Await page dot locator. So we have to use this locator method here. So page dot, we are first identifying this locator. We are passing this value of this locator. Here I can simply put double quotes. We are identifying the locator first, page dot locator. Here we are passing the CSS selector of login button. And now we don't have to fill this value. We just have to click on that button. So that's why I am using click method. So it will click on that button. After clicking on that button, we will successfully log in. So what we will do, after passing this value, let's say standard user, and this password will be identified and passed here. Then we will click on login button. So in third step, we are clicking on this login button. And then we will come on this page. So as soon as you click on this page, we should identify something. To assert our test case, we should identify some validation should be there. So what I will do, I will just capture this text. I will verify whether this text is present on this page or not. If this text is present, that means our successful login is completed. So we can also use text equals to whatever text we want to verify, that also we can capture. So what I will do, I will simply inspect this text, sauce labs backpack. We will locate this text, we will capture this text, and we will store it in one constant variable, and then we will compare it whether that captured text is expected and it is visible or not. If it is visible on our web page, that means our login is successful. So for that we have to use this command await, but before that we have to define one constant. So I am just using constant, let's say backpack underscore text equals to await page dot locator, and inside this we can also use text equals to sauce labs backpack. So it will capture that specific text and it will store that text in backpack text, this constant. And after that what we can do, we can simply verify whether, let's say await. Now we are doing the validation whether await, we can use expect. In this we have to pass this backpack text, this backpack text, and then we can use to be visible. There are multiple assertions methods are present, so we are going to use to be visible. So this to be visible will check whether this backpack text is containing this specific text or not. So this, if this element, that is backpack text, is visible, that means if it is visible means our test case is passed. So we have to pass this value, that is assertion. So we are expecting this backpack text to be visible, and this constant is nothing but we are capturing the value of sauce labs backpack from this page. So if this value is present, we are storing this value in that constant, and we are comparing that constant text is equivalent to this text or not. If it is same, that means our test case is passed. Now what we will do, so this is our sample test case is completed. So we have added goto method which will redirect to, which will launch the browser and open this website. After that we have to use page.locator to identify this locator by using CSS selector. We have used CSS selector in this method. In this line we are using CSS selector. This is by using ID. So username and input tag name hash ID, and it will fill that value by using standard underscore user. Then we are passing password, we are clicking on login button, and then we are verifying whether this text value is present. If it is present, we are capturing that and storing it in backpack text. And this constant we are comparing, is it visible or not. If it is visible, that means our test case is passed. So how to execute this test case now? So what is the command? So command is npx playwright test hyphen headed, so that it will be executed on browser mode, UI mode. That's why we are providing hyphen headed. I want to execute only on one browser. That's why we have to provide hyphen project equals to Chromium. And which is the file name? File name is, I just want to execute this specific file, spec file, locator underscore css underscore demo dot spec dot js. So file name which we are providing here. So it will execute only this test case only on this Chromium browser and only in UI mode, that is headed mode. So let's execute and let's see the output. So it will launch the browser. Now it is launching the browser. Okay, so there is small mistake which must have been happened. So what is the command we are executing? npx playwright test let me save this file and let me execute one more time. So now it is successfully executing, starting the test case. It will launch the Chromium. It is launching the Chromium. It will open that website sourcedemo.com. It will pass the username, password, and it is successfully passed. But it happened too fast. If you see, the execution happens so fast, we can see that here test case is passed. So now what I will do, I want to see the execution. So we can also execute the test case in debug mode as well, step by step. So in Playwright, there is a provision of executing your test case in debug mode, where we can control all the test cases steps execution one by one. So I will just show you. So what is the steps command for that is, it is the same command, npx playwright test hyphen headed project equals to Chromium, the file name which we want to execute, and after that we have to just provide hyphen debug. If you provide hyphen debug, it will execute, it will open the debugger as well. So let me just show you. So I'm just executing this command now. So it will open the execution in debug mode. We have to just provide hyphen debug. Then it will open Chromium along with one inspector element of Playwright. So I will just show you now. If you see, Playwright inspector is opened, browser is opened. If you see, it has launched the browser, but step is not executed. What is the step? If you see, it is highlighting the step number 5 here. That is, it is showing you await page.go to this website. So this step is still not executed. Now if I click on this step over arrow, if you see, this is the step over arrow. If I click on this, this fifth step will be executed. So I'm just clicking on this button. So now it will open the fifth step. It will execute the fifth step. So if you see now, it has successfully executed the step number 5. But it is not entering the username yet. If I again click on this next button, it will execute the step number 6 as well. If you see, it is passing the username. It has already passed the username in that field, but it is now waiting for our next step, that is the step number 7. So if I again click on step number 7, so it will execute that password step as well. Now it is highlighting the login button, that is step number 8. It is not clicking on that button. It is totally in our control now. So that is the debug mode of Playwright. If I again click on this next button, that is step over, it will execute the step number 8 now. I'm just clicking on this, so it has clicked on login button. So step number 8 is also successfully executed. Now it has also captured locator text. So if you see, this text equals to Sauce Labs backpack. It is successfully found. It has captured that value and it is stored that element in backpack underscore text. Now if I press again one more time this step over button, it will basically perform step number 11. What is the step number 11? Here we are expecting that backpack underscore text to be visible, and that is actually visible. So if I place this, our execution will be completed and test case will be passed. Here also if you see, all the steps are displayed here. All the steps which are getting passed are displayed in the logs here. So if I press now next one, it will automatically complete the test case. Test case gets passed. And we can also use await page dot close. So once test case is completed, we have to just use await page dot close. It will close the browser. So this is how we can execute the test case in debug mode as well. So let me show you one more time. So this is how we can use in debug mode as well. So you have to just use playwright test headed project equals to Chromium, so that it will be executed only on Chromium browser. Then the file name, I just want to execute this specific test case. That's why I am giving the spec file name here, debug, so that it will launch the inspector as well. So Playwright inspector will be launched along with Chromium browser, and we can control the test execution in that case. Step by step we can observe which step is getting executed. It is very helpful whenever we are getting some errors. So while writing the test script, if you are facing some issues, we can use this debug mode. So if you see now, again it is opening the Playwright inspector and we can execute the test steps one by one. So I'm just clicking on this step over. So for step number 5 is executed. After that it will execute and it will enter the username. Then it will enter password. If I click now next, it will click on login button. Now it is open, it is successfully logged in. So now it is expecting the next step is 11th one. So if I click on this, it will execute that step, that is successfully completed. If you see, logs also showing it is completed. And now it is waiting for our next step, that is page dot close. So if I execute the next now, it will execute that step and browser will be closed. And our test case is successfully passed. So here we have used CSS selector. Now this is the one way of writing and finding our test locators. But there is one more way. So I will just show you one more syntax of this await page.locator finding the element and filling those value. We can use any one of those. So what I will do, I am just commenting this. I am just commenting this method. Then I am just copying it again, pasting it, uncommenting it. So what I will show you now is, first step is same, everything is same, just here step number 90. So we are opening the website here, and here we are first identifying the locator and then we are filling the value. But the same way, same line we can write like this as well. We can simply use await page dot action which we want to perform. So I want to perform page dot fill, and then we can provide the locator value. So what is the locator value? Again, same CSS selector I am using for username. Page dot fill, it will find this locator and what value we have to pass. So in this case, we have to provide the value also here, that is standard user. So basically, if you see difference between this and this, so here we are first identifying the locator and then filling the value. But in this case, we are just using page.fill. So action is we are referring first. So we are identifying by using fill, and then we are passing locator as first parameter, and the value which we want to pass to that locator, that value we can use it here. So same for password as well. So both are basically performing the same action. It's just a syntax change. We can use any one of this approach. So now again for second line also, what I can do, await page dot, instead of using dot locator, I can directly use page dot fill. This is the locator which is already present. Then we don't need to use fill here. And this value we can directly give as a second parameter in this fill method. So it will identify this password locator, password input field, and it will pass this second parameter, that is secret underscore sauce, as value of that password field. So it will also do the same work as it is doing here. It's just a way of writing. We can use any one of this method. So this will fill the password. And again, now third step, that is clicking on login button. This also we can write like this. So if you see, await page dot click, this will identify this element and it will click on this login button. So here we are not using page dot locator. Instead of that, we are directly using the action method. For example, page dot fill. What value we have to fill in which locator? So locator we have to provide here, and then value which we want to pass. Again page dot fill, locator which we have to provide as a first parameter and value which we want to pass as a second parameter. Then we have to just click on the login button. So I am directly using page dot click and the locator value which we want to pass here. So these three steps we can also write like these steps also. So this is also fine, this is also fine. It's just a way of writing. We can use any one of these method in our test cases. And let's execute this test case also now, just to see whether it executes correctly or not. Basically it is the same operation which we are doing. So I'm just saving this file. Let's open the terminal. In terminal I'm just executing again in debug mode. So let's execute in debug mode only. So it is starting the test case. It is launching the Playwright inspector along with the Chromium. So what I will do, I will just press on next line. So I'm just pressing next. It will open the website. Again I'm pressing next. It is passing the username. If you see execution step by step, it is passing the password. It is clicking on login. It is capturing the text. It is comparing, and it is ending the test execution. Again this test case is also passed. So this is the simple example of using locators by CSS selector in Playwright. We have also used text also. So if you see this step, in this what we are doing, we are capturing that text by using text method. If you see, text equals to sauce labs backpack. So it will identify the element by using text, and we are storing it in this constant, and then we are expecting this constant to be visible. If it is visible, that means our test case is pass. So that is how we can use CSS selector. So let's revise one more time. So what we are doing here is, in Playwright there are multiple ways of locating elements. So in Playwright there are let me just quickly show you. So this is the syntax for locating element. For example, if there is an input box, we can simply use await page.locator, the locator value, then we have to use dot fill, and then we can pass the value. And instead of fill, we can also use dot type as well. So dot fill and dot type both are the same. It will perform the same operation. we can simply use await page.locator. Locator value we have to pass here, and then dot type whatever value which you want to pass in that specific input field. So this is the syntax for that. We can use like this, where we are using dot locator, or we can simply use like this as well. So await page dot, we can directly use the fill method, and as a first parameter we have to pass the locator, and then the value which we want to pass to that locator, that also we can mention as a second parameter. We can also use type also. Page dot type will also perform the same operation. The locator value and the value which you want to pass to that input field. And at the same time, if you want to use some links or buttons, etc., then we can use like this. Await page dot locator, the locator value and dot click. Or we can simply use await page dot click, and then we can pass the locator value. So both are performing the same operation. In our test writing, we can use any one of this approach. But to avoid confusion, always follow only one approach. And we have also seen there are multiple ways. So we have seen the CSS selectors. We have also seen using text as well. In coming session, we will see about XPath and unique property of elements. And CSS selector also we can create by different multiple ways. So we can create a CSS selector by using tag and ID. We can also create a CSS selector by using tag and some specific attribute. For example, tag name, specific attribute equals to value of that attribute. And we can use the command like this. So this is also another combination of CSS selector. We can also create a CSS selector by using tag, class and attribute. So if you have tag name dot class name value, and then we can use any attribute equals to value of that attribute. So this is also we can create a CSS selector. So it totally depends upon your use cases. So for example, in your use case, sometimes there can be a specific attribute which is present. Sometimes there can be a class that can be a present. So depending on the element which we are trying to locate, we have to use appropriate way for that. We have also seen how to use a text. We can also locate elements by their visible text by using text equals to the visible text which we want to capture. For example, if you use await page.click, text equals to login, it will click on element with text as login. We can also use partial match as well. And this is a simple example which we have seen, right? So this is the simple example which we just have seen. So this is the script which we have written for locating username, password field and clicking on login button, and then we are performing verification of that specific text to be present. So we can use this approach or we can use this approach. Any approach is fine to locate a element. We can use like this page.locator, then the locator value dot fill and the value which we want to pass, or we can simply use page.fill first, and then in that we can pass the locator and value which we want to pass. We can use any one of this method. And we have also seen how to use a debug mode. So if you pass --debug command while executing the test, it will open the Playwright inspector. And in Playwright inspector, we can control our test execution. Step by step, we can perform the test execution. That comes helpful whenever you are facing some issues in the test execution. So thank you for watching this video. In coming video, we will see about XPath and how to use a specific properties to locate the elements.